Good day, beautiful bunch of beloved immortal beings and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. You have found good in abundance because you have used your most valuable asset, your time, to tune in consciously and conscientiously to Hug America, Hug America podcast with your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Notice I didn't say the ambassador of joy. The ambassador of joy and America's greatest storyteller, Neal Foard. That's with an A, F-O-A-R-D, America's greatest storyteller. And you are especially fortunate today. Several reasons. One is because you're here with us. Number two, it's leap day in a leap year. Isn't that so fabulous? And it only happens once every 4 years or so, and on a special year that ends in an even number. I mean, all these calculations have an extra day, because if we didn't have that extra day every bit of time, things would go awry. We would fall off the edge of the world, or something would happen. Time would explode, but who knows all the different things. So it's leap day today, Feb 29. What an especially good day. It's actually interesting, just because I know this, it's Tony Robbins' birthday. Okay. Oh. And I had occasion to be with him and his teacher, Jim Rohn, 47 plus years ago. And that was an experience I still carry with me. But today's topic is such an important one. And it's great that it happens on Leap Day. So you can make that leap of faith into what we're going to talk about. And it's the L word. Now, you might think, well, that's love or life, and you'd be thinking nicely. The word we're going to use for L is laughter. Now, I study this. I'm a student of words and language, and especially spelling, because spelling is so fun. It's so bizarre. And laughter is one of those great bizarre words. If I were going to spell it, and I would of course spell it L-A-F-F-T-E-R, laughter, hello, but it's L-A-U-G-H-T-E-R, and notice that it's laughter. Now, my dear beloved partner here, wonderful Neal, he's blessed to have a daughter. Now, daughter is spelled D-A-U-G-H-T-E-R, but it's not pronounced datter, it's pronounced daughter. So laughter should be laughter. And I'm sure somebody hundreds of years ago pronounced it that way, but we don't. And that's why Laffy Taffy exists, right? Some great creative artists like Neal, he'll tell you his background was in the stuff of advertising and lines and ideas and jingles and such. Well, somebody really clever came up with Laffy Taffy. You know, if you're going to spell taffy, T-A-F-F-Y, it should be, well, gee, it makes you smile and happy. It should be Laffy, L-A-F-F-Y, which is the best way to spell Laffy. You're not going to spell it L-A-U-G-H-Y, because people would laugh at that. So you call it Laffy Taffy. We're gonna have a lot of fun today, especially Leap Day, Leap Year, and we're going to just leap into the great known, not the unknown, the great known. Isn't that great, by the way? I like that. N-O-N-E could be pronounced known, but it's not. It's none. Okay. And D-O-N-E is done. But L-O-N-E is lone. Hello? So if this doesn't tickle you and make you laugh already, I'm not doing my job well. So I'm going to just shift right away into the commander, the pilot here, the co-pilot. God is our co-pilot, along with wonderful Neal, America's greatest storyteller. What do you have to share with us, wonderful Neal, about laughter?
Oh, a bunch of stuff. I want to start with what you were saying about the spelling in English, which is preposterous. It is preposterous. Our spelling is so stupid that every year we have a giant contest in which we torment kids to try to figure out. We have a. It's so bad. It's so difficult to figure out that we actually have a contest where people try to figure out how to spell words. So, of course, the reason that we have such preposterous spelling actually is a good reason, which is
Yes.
that England and the islands were a crossroads of cultures. And the greatest progress in humanity is when you cross cultures like that, because the greatest learning comes from seeing things from a new perspective. And so the Angles and the Saxons and the Romans and the Celts and the Norwegians and the Danes and on and the Welsh, and so it goes. And this great melting pot was what ultimately resulted in a culture that was very innovative. The English are renowned the world over for their disproportionate winning of Nobel Prizes. And the Jewish tradition is the same. There is a disproportionate winning of Nobel Prizes because the Jewish diaspora came from all corners of the world, and wherever they went, they adopted new cultures that then subsequently resulted in this great hybridization of thought. And not that that's funny, but I do think that there's a certain beauty and humor to be found from the ridiculousness of our spelling. Now, I want to talk about the moments when you think. I want to talk about the power of laughter and the power of laughter to overcome what seemingly were disastrous occasions. I don't know, Barry, if I've already told this story. I probably have, but it bears repeating because to me, it was how a single person's sunny disposition and laughter overcame my own uh, rage, which you have a tendency to do with me too. I'm happy to report that for the audience who doesn't know, I'm prone to fits of temper, and Barry is always diffusing me and bringing out the better nature in me, which is a very positive and welcome thing. So the story goes that I had a 66 Mustang with no hood. Barry, does this sound familiar? Of
Yes.
course. Okay, well, I will just focus then on the part of the story that I think is ultimately the part that made me
Good.
laugh the most, which is that this woman who was the lone figure at this repair garage, who she was the one person who wouldn't smile and wouldn't laugh. I took it on as a task that I was going to make her laugh. And I tried every joke I could think of, and I will tell you one of those jokes in a moment. I tried every joke I could think of to make her smile, and seemingly it had no effect on her. But ultimately, I mean, she was using her stapler to assemble bills and, and invoices and so forth. And I picked up the stapler at one point and turned it into a puppet. And her line to me was, "We close at noon. You have to be out of here by noon." And so I picked up the stapler and went, "We close at noon. You have to be out of here by noon." And it didn't get a rise out of her at all, except that at the end of the entire adventure, which was an entire morning, she finally turned to me and said, "We're closing for lunch. You hungry?" And I turned around and she had this big smile on her face. So I thought, no transformation happens all at once. It happens little by little. And your sunniness of disposition and your humor actually is the hammer blows that break the stone eventually. So I will tell you one of the stories that I told her.
I
And
just
it,
want to interrupt for one moment, first of all, because I love the idea. I mean, I'm laughing of watching. I can see it in my mind's eye of interfacing with somebody who is giving you a stone look and picking up that object she was working with, the puppet, and animating it. That's what you did. You animated a staple machine,
right.
and it touched enough. Like you said, it was the hammer blows against the stone that chipped away and released this
Yeah.
magnificent piece of her, which was inviting you to lunch. Hello.
Yeah. How did you put it? You just said that opened up her. How did you put
Yes,
it?
yes. You
Released.
chipped away, you openly released her, the
Yeah.
magnificent statue within.
Okay. So I am going to say for your audience, Barry and I are giving you an assignment today. Your job is to go out there and find somebody whose better nature you can release. All right. You have to give them permission to laugh or to smile.
I
So
love that.
here is the joke I've got for you, Barry. There was this Englishman, and again, you'll have to stop me if I'll come up with a different joke, but if you've heard this before. But there was this young Englishman who had graduated from Sandhurst, which is their military academy in the UK. It's their West Point. And as a graduation present, his parents had given him a rail tour through India. And when he was halfway between Calcutta and New Delhi, the train had to stop for maintenance. And they indicated to the passengers it was going to be at least an hour. So he notices out of the corner of his eyes, there's this beautiful little colonial bar, this white bar with a filigreed exterior, and he thinks, oh, I'll go have a gin and tonic. So he walks into this place, and he's halfway through his gin and tonic, and he notices this ancient man, an Englishman, down at the end of the bar. He knew he was an Englishman because instead of having a very beautiful coffee-colored complexion, he looks pink as a pig from the heat. So he looks down at the end of this bar, sees this ancient man with this big walrus mustache, and he thinks, I think I know that man. So he walks up to him and says, excuse me, are you Field Marshal Westminster Smythe? And the man turns very slowly and says, yes, I am. And he goes, good Lord, this is such an honor to meet you. Did you know your military exploits are required reading at Sandhurst? And the old guy goes, oh, yes, jolly good. And he says, what an honor to meet you. You must have a million stories. And then he looks at his watch and he goes, oh, damn, I've got to be getting back to my train. Would you do me the favor? Would you tell me what was the most exciting thing to ever happen to you in your military career? And the old man thinks for a minute and says, I was on the banks of the Kataganga River in 1906. I'd been separated from my unit when I walked 10 paces into the bush and came face to face with an enormous Bengal tiger who went, rah! I wet my pants. Yes, I imagine you would. No, I mean just now when I went, rah.
So, this is not wow. That was not just wow. That was full belly.
So, Barry, I got that joke from an Irish comedian named Dave Allen, who I want to encourage your audience to go to YouTube.
Let's say the name again so we can spell it out for people.
Dave Allen. So it's D-A-V-E, Dave. Allen, A-L-L-E-N.
Oh, I'm so good. Yes. Everybody, please find it. Listen to some of his clips. They are absolutely, they will cheer you no matter what's going on.
Yes. Now, we were talking a moment ago about the absurdity of English spelling, but Dave Allen does a brilliant bit on how silly the clock is, how absurd it is to try to tell time. And when you try to teach kids to tell time, it reveals just how silly it is.
Because it really, by the way, this is an important, interesting idea that you're saying here, because we all take for granted that there's something called a watch, and it's divided in a way that we would never have done, right?
It's not logical.
I would do it in the decimal system, not in 60, etc. And by the way, there was a time just until recently. It's funny you mentioned this, wonderful Neal, because over the past 3-4 years, things have shifted. But for almost 20 years, the purchase of watches with a face on it, a dial, were decreasing substantially. Let's say, let's call the high was, I'm making up a number, 10 million units. Over the course of 2 decades, it was down to about 3 million units. And of course, again, maybe bigger numbers. Point is, things were going down because people didn't want to tell time. They wanted a digital because they didn't have to think. But I'm going to tell you a beautiful story about clocks and watches in just a moment. We have a great sponsor, actually 2 great sponsors. We're going to just do a quick cut to these sponsors. We urge everybody, because we vet our sponsors, to patronize them. And you're going to love them because they're going to be good for you. We're going to make you happier, healthier, and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? So we'll be right back after these brief messages. Don't go away. There's more Neal and Barry coming up right after this.
Any business leader who has stood in front of potential investors can tell you, creating a vivid, compelling vision of the future can be the difference between bankruptcy and billions. If you can move people with words, you can practically will things into existence. Something that seems impossible can be made to seem inevitable. But not with bullet points, with a well-crafted and well-told story. I spent 30 years in advertising, creating stories for giant brands, universities, and governments, and changing people's hearts and minds. And over those years, I accumulated a treasure chest of insights about how to entertain and inspire and move people. And I think I can teach you. Can you think of a tool more powerful than human speech? See how your value changes when you start to master the oldest human art form. What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card, and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, you're always looking for and finding the good. If you've been listening for the first few 10, 15 minutes, you are probably on the floor rolling in laughter, and you should be. It's wonderful. It's the best way to tickle yourself. Laughter is the best medicine. We were just talking about looking at a watch or a clock that has these interesting numbers from 1 to 12, and then divided in such a way that it's really 60 minutes to 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, whoever came up with that, and we can talk about it in a moment. But I'm going to share with wonderful Neal, and I think he knows the answer. Actually, I'd be surprised if you don't. So it's not a trick question, but it's an interesting question. And the thousands and thousands of people listening, and by the way, we urge everybody to do the following. Share this with 5 people. Because we're almost 10,000, we want to have 50,000 people listening regularly. It's the second and fourth Thursday of every month for the rest of your life, except on elite month. But just book it in, because it's so wonderful. This is a time for you to luxuriate in life with these 2 amazing beings, Neal, Foard. Okay, your humble host, Barry Shore. So here it is for you, wonderful Neal Foard. If you will notice, and you will from now forward, because the reticular activator has been activated, that whenever you see a billboard or an advertisement for a watch, whether it's a Rolex, it's a Seiko, it's anything in between, any watch, what does that watch face? What is the time on that watch face?
Okay. I'm going to guess 10:10 or...
Yeah! He did it! I knew he would! It's 10:10! It's 10:10! Why?
Because that way the hands are sort of lifted up like...
Yes, keep going.
I can't think of anything else. Why?
When you look at now, when you'll see it, because you've got all the pieces, now we're going to complete it.
Okay.
It's a happy face.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
The hands are in such a way at 10:10 that you now literally, it's a smiling face. It's the predecessor to the smiley face. And it's there. You will not see an advertisement for a watch that doesn't have 10:10. And now you know why. And now you know the rest of the story. So first of all, 10:10 is an enormously powerful number. Why? Because it's 1010. So we're going to give a little inside baseball stuff, which I'm going to presume everybody knows, and yet when I speak to people, I find out they don't. So Everything in the world today runs on computers. Is that fair to say, Neal? Everything
It is.
runs on
Well,
computers,
pretty
right?
much.
Computers, I don't care if we're talking about regenerative AI or anything in the world. All computers run on 2 digits. 2 digits. What are those 2 digits, dear sir? A 1 and a 0. That's it. It's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 1 and a 0. It's the combination of the 1 to a 0. And sometimes that string can be thousands and thousands of 1s and 0s in different places. But every computer in the world works on only 2 digits, a 1 and a 0. And we could talk about the 0 a long time and the 1 a long time. It's just, but it boggles the modern mind, or it should, to think that the hands on a watch, which, by the way, is a bizarre idea of 60, et cetera, and how it's divided up, and looking at something and saying, well, that's 10-10. Where did you get that?
God, Perry, it goes like this. You say, okay, 15 minutes is a quarter after. Half past is 6.
Right.
and then it's either 35 past or 25 to. And the more you dig into it, you go, what? This is
Wait a minute.
ludicrous.
Now, since you gave a story about Santa, sprinkle in military time, because we all know that if you say to somebody, okay, synchronized watches, we're going to meet at 4:38. If you don't say AM, PM, what the heck is an AM and what the heck is a PM? So now we have to leap ahead and say it's not 1 o'clock, it's 13.
Post meridian, so yeah, but I actually, at least military time makes a certain amount of sense, because then although there's another absurdity to time, which is time zones.
Okay, why did time zones come into being?
Yeah, because the circular Earth created a situation.
Yeah, that's nice to say, but until
17 hours ahead of us, so.
Okay, but there was something that made it a necessity of slicing and dicing and finding out that there were time zones, and that this thing called longitude and latitude existed. So what was the one thing that only happened after the Industrial Revolution? Tick, 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 tick. And they're called
what?
Close. Railroads. Railroads.
Because of the schedules.
Right. Railroads need to run on time.
Right.
They don't run on tracks. Isn't that interesting? Talk about words. Railroads run on time. They don't run on tracks. Of course they run on tracks in order to get to someplace on time. But you're talking about, so if you're going to have railroads and you're moving across the country, it was not until the 1830s or so that we started the process of time zones. Because before that, who cares? Who needs it?
That's a great piece of trivia. I did not know that. It was the railroads.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's cool. And the international date line, where you're standing on one side of it and it's Thursday, you're standing on the other side of it, it's Friday. And it's just part of the absurdity of our lives. Now, let me ask you a question. A net positive or net negative, the fact that we're so obsessed with schedules? I wonder. You tell me.
Well, first of all, I love the idea that you just presented to the world. Net positive, net negative. Let's talk about that for a moment. Because when we talk about numbers, integers, and people start counting, if you ask people to start counting, most of the time, I think 96.8% of the time, people will begin with 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just ask them to start counting. People do not usually begin with 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, even though everybody knows 0 exists, and it's an interesting idea. Notice, though, if you ever ask anybody, let's talk about negative numbers. Well, most people will scratch their head. If you've studied anything about mathematics, not just arithmetic, you know that there's such a thing as a positive integer and a negative integer, and that they can cancel each other out, and then you can add them up and multiply them. It's a mind-expanding world, much like, we'll go back to that nice lady who, as we said, you were chipping away at her exterior and be able to release the angel within. So that's, to me, what happens with numbers. We're going to, actually, you just gave me a great idea. Make a note, please. I think one of either the next show or the one after, we'll do numbers. We'll talk about numbers more in depth. Now, see what just happened? He broke out into laughter. So let's go back to laughter. I'm going to urge everybody, we only have a few minutes left. I'm going to urge everybody that's listening, and the 5 people you're going to share this with, to do the following. I do this daily, twice daily, actually. I do it once in the morning and once in the evening before I go to sleep. And it is so therapeutic. It is so beneficial that I will be showered with emails and chats and things applauding and say, Barry, you saved my life. Okay, it may not go that far, but it should work. And here's what it is. You ready, everybody? I'm just going to have a breath. And here's what I do, and I urge everybody to do this. It takes only, you ready for this? Only 11 seconds. 11 seconds, that's it. And here we go. Okay, I'm going to stop because I can keep going. And I'm doing deep in my belly. You do this twice a day, once before noon, once afternoon, for 11 days in a row. Don't miss a day. If you miss a day, you got to go back and start over again. So you're doing it twice a day. And you learn to laugh out loud. And for me, the best thing I do, I have a picture in my mind of something that happened, and it's mostly about me. In other words, something I did that was silly. I said something somebody didn't really want to. I'm laughing at myself. Laughing at yourself, in my humble opinion, is the best medicine of all.
Yeah, Barry, that's quite profound, and I think that needs to be reminded. I have to remind myself as well. I love live comedy. Live comedy is just so much better than just seeing it, on YouTube. And I happened to see Maria Bamford in Torrance, and Maria is quite open about the fact that she's had mental health issues. She's hysterically funny, but unfortunately, the very thing that makes her so brilliant has also sort of tormented her. And she has to acknowledge in her act her struggles with mental illness. The beauty of it is that she, of all people, is a really good example of what you just said. It is only because she's able to laugh at herself that she has unlocked a survival strategy, a mental health, a path to happiness and peace, is that she acknowledges her trouble, and in acknowledging it and laughing at it, it has less power over her. She doesn't. Right. So I would like to just thank you for that gift. I don't know how much time we have, maybe a minute or two, but I do want to say, ladies and gentlemen, when Barry says, this laughing out loud thing, there is a lot of physiological evidence that what he's done is he has released dopamine and oxytocin and all of the good peptides that are going to actually make you feel better. It's the same thing that happens when you just force yourself to smile. When you smile and you laugh, it literally makes you feel better. They will often counsel people who are feeling not so good, just put a smile on your face, man, because your body will trick you into thinking you're in a good mood. So that you're not wrong about that, Barry. If you just give yourself an opportunity to laugh for a count of 10, just force it on yourself. It will literally make you feel better.
Yeah. I urge people 11 seconds. 11 seconds. If you want to watch, in the beginning, you're going to watch the clock and say 11 seconds, and you're going to go past it. But just 11 seconds twice a day, once before noon, once out. I do it almost first thing in the morning and before I go to sleep. And it shifts. It shifts. Remember, keep that F in place. The other stuff happens. It shifts everything in your life. So again, I want to say a huge thank you to my partner in joy, the wonderful Neal Foard, Foard, your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. And what we'd like to do is to leave everybody with this, the Hug America podcast. So we're going to do our hug. Hug stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving. On the count of 3, dear sir. 1, 2, 3. And our blessing to everybody is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference.